Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. When I was editing my last video, it dawned on me that I have a lot of new subscribers here and y'all probably don't even know my real name. My name is Sonia. Hey y'all, welcome. I go by Sister Philly on YouTube, but my real name is Sonia. So anyway, now that we've been officially introduced, let's get on with the video. In today's video, I'm doing a summer makeup haul update. So I know that we are still very much into summer. We haven't even gotten to Labor Day yet, but I am done buying makeup for the summer, for real this time. I said that like a couple weeks ago, but I still bought a couple more things, but no more makeup shopping for me until holiday season. So what I'm going to do is just wrap up all of my summer makeup by doing today's video. I'm going to highlight some of the products that I bought over the past couple of months that I think are hits or misses in my book. I'm not going to go over every single thing that I bought because that would be a whole lot of stuff, but I'm just going to highlight some stuff that was really good, and unfortunately a couple of things that were really bad too. So with that being said, let's jump right into it. Okay, so as usual, I'm going to go in the order that I would be applying the products to my face. It's just a lot easier for me to work that way. So this first product, I didn't actually haul it, but I would be remiss if I did not mention the McGrath Foundation, aka the $68 foundation. A lot of people are not feeling this because it costs $68, but if you like medium coverage foundation, if you like a really natural finish, and especially if you have normal or dry skin, this foundation is worth the $68. I have oily skin and I still really love this foundation. I am wearing it on my face today. I got this from Influencer and unfortunately I got a shade that was too dark for me, but I think I can still work with it and I just cannot stop playing with this foundation. I have worn this stuff so much since I got it because I absolutely love it. Like, it's so lightweight, it feels like your skin, it makes you look like you just have like a flawless base. It just makes your face look so just nice and natural and fresh and healthy and radiant, and I just love it. Now because I have oily skin, usually when I wear this it will only last for a few hours before it does start to get shiny. So if you're into like fuller coverages, if you're into matte finishes, then no, you're not gonna like this foundation. But normally when I do wear it, it may be to go to work, it may be because I'm going out somewhere and I'm only gonna be out for a few hours anyway, so it works for me. But if you want something that's gonna last for hours and hours without getting shiny, if you have oily skin, then this is not gonna be for you. I will say that a couple of times I tried this with putting powder underneath the foundation, and that does help a lot better. It usually will last for maybe like 8 to 10 hours when I do that. But again, yes, it costs $68, but it's really worth it if you like medium coverage and a really nice natural finish. I have read some comments on other videos about this foundation, and some people feel like $68 is too much for the foundation to not be full coverage. And I really don't think that those two things like correlate with each other, because you could have like a light coverage foundation and it be $68. It doesn't really matter what the coverage level is, it's about how the foundation performs. So yes, you're not going to get full coverage out of this, but you are going to get, like I said, a really nice flawless looking skin-like finish. So if that appeals to you, I think you should definitely try this out if you haven't already. It comes in 36 shades, and I believe a lot of the shades are actually sold out. I think at Sephora, or at least when this foundation first launched, or the whole system. So there's primer, foundation, and setting powder, and a couple of brushes in this system. I think a lot of people were saying at Sephora they couldn't find the setting powders and the primer, so they were ordering it online, but you can definitely get the foundation online or in stores at Sephora or on patmcgrath.com. But again, this retails for $68. Yes, that's up there, but I think this is really worth it. Next up, I have two concealers to talk about. The first one is the L'Oreal Infallible Full Wear More Than Concealer. So I usually wear these in two shades. I have 400 Caramel. This is 400 Caramel, and this is 415 Honey. So normally when I have to mix complexion products together, two shades of a foundation or a concealer, I don't bother with it because I have other options that work for me and I don't have to mix them. But I think this one is so good that it's worth mixing the two together. A lot of people were comparing this to Tarte Shape Tape. I absolutely hated Tarte Shape Tape on my face. It was really drying, very cakey, and it just did not work out for me. These, I can compare these to the Too Faced Born This Way. The Too Faced Born This Way Multi-Use Sculpting Concealer. I used to really love this, and the only reason I've been using this lately is because I'm almost out of this, and I just want to really finish it up so that I can transition to these concealers instead. I think that these are a little bit better than the Too Faced concealer if you want something that's really full coverage. This is like, to me, this is like maximum full coverage for a concealer. It's really hydrating, it's really creamy, it doesn't dry my under eye out, and I have very problematic under eyes because I have like a lot of lines and wrinkles under my eyes. I have puffiness that, I mean, like, no matter what I do, it just doesn't go away. But this does a really good job at camouflaging, for the most part, all of my under eye issues. And even with buying 2 of these, I believe these retail for $11 or $12.99. I'm looking at Ulta's website and they are $13.49 at Ulta. I picked these up at either Target or CVS, and I'm pretty sure I paid less than that. It was either $11 or $12.99, but it's somewhere in that price range. But my point is, even with buying 2 of these, I'm still saving money because it costs less. 2 of them cost less than buying one of the Too Faced concealers. So this one is definitely a hit in my book. I have been using this off and on, and I don't have anything bad to say about it. Like I said, when I really run out of this, I'm going to transition to the L'Oreal concealer instead of opening up my other brand new bottle of the Too Faced one. Okay, and I have one more concealer to talk about. This is the Maybelline Super Stay Full Coverage Under Eye Concealer. So that's what this one looks like. I picked this one up in the shade 45 Tan. Now, I did do a dedicated video to this, and I feel like maybe I was just a little too harsh in that video, but I did not like this concealer. Like, this is an absolute miss in my book. There is nothing full coverage about this concealer. Now, if you're looking for something that's really lightweight and just something that's more of like a brightening concealer, so maybe if you have full coverage foundation on and it's already covering your under eye area and all that, and you just want to put something on top of it just to brighten certain areas, this will do the job very nicely because it does blend into the skin okay. It's just that it's meant to be a full coverage under eye concealer, and it's a light coverage concealer. Like, I have to apply like 3 to 4 coats of this stuff just to make it cover anything. Like, I just was not impressed by this at all. And this only comes in 12 shades. I'm not sure if they're going to extend the line, but it's not a full coverage concealer and it doesn't have a really good shade range. This is an absolute miss in my book. Next up is a brush. This is the It Brushes for Ulta brush number 211 All Over Face Powder Brush. This cost $40. This was an absolute splurge for me, but I wanted to get it because I don't have the other brush that I used to use. I don't have the old brush that I used to use to put powder on my face, but basically it was an e.l.f. brush, and it was pretty much the size of this brush, but it had like a really like short handle to it, and I've been really wanting something that has a long handle that I can hold just more comfortably in my hand. These brushes, not just this one, but the It brushes for Ulta in general, they always get very good reviews on Ulta's website. So I decided to just treat myself and just splurge on this, and I love it. Like, every single time I do my makeup, I'm always putting my powder on with this brush. It's just very comfortable in the hand because of the size of the handle. Some people think that the brush head is too big. This is a little dirty because I did just use it today, but some people think that this brush head is just way too big, but that's another reason why I love it so much, because it's covering so much surface at one time. So yes, it's going to be a little more difficult for you to get to certain areas like your nose and between your eyebrows rather, but I like the fact that I can do bigger areas like my cheeks and my forehead really fast with this, and it's a really nice fluffy soft to the touch brush. I really like it. So yes, $40. I'm sure that there are other brushes out there that are shaped similar to this that are a lot cheaper, but I really like this one. So this is definitely a hit for me. Okay, so we have 3 eyeshadow palettes that we're going to talk about today, and the first one I'm kind of torn on. I really don't know if this is a hit or a miss for me, but this is the Morphe 39S Such a Gem palette. So in case you're not familiar, this is what it looks like. This thing is freaking huge. Now, I decided to buy this because I love pinks and purples. Those are two of my favorite colors for eyeshadow, and as you can see, this is a pink and purple themed palette. In the past, this is my very first Morphe palette. No, that's not true. I do have another Morphe palette that I got from BoxyCharm. It's one of their smaller palettes. I think it's a 12 or 15 pan palette. But this is outside of the one that I got from BoxyCharm. This is my first time purchasing a Morphe palette. And Morphe palettes in general, they just never really appealed to me because they look like too much of the same thing, especially before they started venturing out and making more palettes that are a bit more colorful, because a lot of their palettes, like, you know, a few years back, to me, they all looked just like a whole bunch of browns. They just all looked very, very monochromatic and just too much of the same thing. So like I said, I decided to get this one because it is a pink and purple themed palette. But there are different shades in here. See, this thing is so big that it's just hard to hold. But yes, there's some variety in here, but I feel pretty much the same way about this palette. There are colors that I like, but there's just too much of the same thing. Like, I just feel like, I don't know, there's not a whole lot that I can do with this because it just looks, I don't know, too monochromatic. Like, I know that there are different colors in here. Like, there's even some like browns and a few bronzy shades in here, but it's just like, I don't know, this palette is just turning out to be a waste of money for me because every time I pick it up, I'm just like I just don't feel like being bothered with the palette. On top of that, it's really big. I feel like it's big and clunky. It does not have a mirror. This isn't like a very travel friendly palette, and it's just like, I don't know. The whole reason that I stayed away from Morphe palettes in the past was for all of the reasons that I just mentioned with this palette. So this one just sits around and I don't use it. Now, in terms of the performance of the eyeshadows, they're fine. They perform just fine. It's just that this palette is kind of like a nuisance to deal with. So I don't know if I would consider this a hit or miss. I mean, I don't know. I think I'm going to go with a miss because I don't know. I just don't feel like being bothered with this palette. Okay, next up is the Milani Gilded Rouge eyeshadow palette. This is the packaging here, and this is what the palette looks like. You may have seen me use this in a few other videos because when I first got this thing, I was playing around with it like crazy. I love this palette. It is so pretty. This shade here on taupe, I love it. I love it. This is like a very nice everyday shimmery shade for me. And I mentioned in another video that I could just put this shade on my lid and then just maybe put like my bronzer in my crease area and just go. But I can also pair this with so many other shades in the palette, some of the pinks, purples. Before I got this, I read a couple of reviews on, I think it was Ulta's website and Milani's website, and some of the reviews were very negative about this palette, so I was a little hesitant, but I'm glad I tried it because I love it. All of the shades are just so super pigmented. I'm just gonna swatch a couple others for y'all so y'all can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so don't worry about this first swatch up here because that's the shade on taupe. I didn't mean to swatch that, but here's just a couple of other swatches for y'all so y'all can get an idea of how the shadows are pigmented, in my opinion anyway. But I really like this because there's a lot of variety in here. There is one shade that I didn't use yet. Yeah, this shade Hush Hush. I mean, I don't think I'm going to ever tap into that because I just can't think of a reason to use it. But I think everything else in here I have used at least once. This one was $19.99. And just like I said with the Morphe palette, that Morphe palette costs $39. I don't think it's travel friendly. This one is very travel friendly because you can fit it in one hand. There is a nice size mirror on the other side of the palette. And it's small compared to the Morphe palette, but there's still a lot of variety going on in here. So this is definitely a hit for me. So next up, you already know how I feel about this because my last couple of videos were on this palette. This is the Jackie Aina ABH palette. I don't know in what order this video is going up. So the last 2 videos. It may not be the very last 2 that I did because I may upload another video in between those and this one. I'm not sure yet, but 2 recent videos I featured this palette. I did a first impression video and I also did a follow-up doing just another look with the palette. So this is what it looks like. It's the typical ABH layout. The shades in this palette were designed to work for every skin tone, but Jackie took deeper skin tones in mine, and I think she did a really good job at creating or coming up with shades that are really nice and pigmented and that will work on deeper skin tones. There's a couple of shades in here that are not my cup of tea because they're a bit too golden. The shade Dwalas, I have not used that in a look yet. It's very, very golden, and I usually just go for silver as opposed to gold for eyeshadows. I did use Trust Issues in my last video. This one looks white in the pan, but it's actually a white gold. So when you swatch it, it comes up very golden. So that's why she called it Trust Issues, because the colors changed, which I thought was very creative. But I also have not used the shade Ginger because, again, it's just a very, very warm brown. And even with brown tones, I tend to go for more ashy, more like gray toned colors. I just like cool tones in general. But even though I don't like every single shade in here, I really, really like this palette. I don't know which one I like better now that I think about it between this one and the Milani palette. I feel like right now I just like this one better because it's something new. So you know how when you get a new makeup product and you like it, you're just all into it because it's just something different from what you've been using lately. So yeah, between those two, I'm not sure because I really love that Milani palette too. My favorite shade in this palette, and I think I've used every shade except for Dwalas and Ginger in a look, and my favorite color is Lituation. And Lituation is very, very similar to the shade on Taupe. It's just a little bit more cool toned. So this right here is Lituation, and then that is on Taupe. So yes, this one has a little bit more color in it, but they are quite similar shades. Now that I think about it, I feel like if the shade Lituation were in that Milani palette instead of on Taupe, I might like that Milani palette a little bit better than this one, only because there's a couple other shades in here that I'm not really feeling. But this is a really, really good palette. It's really versatile. It's just like a very cohesive palette. I mentioned that in my first impression video. Overall, this is just a really nice palette. Even down to the packaging. This packaging is just so pretty. It's very, very well thought out, I think. So this is definitely a hit for me. So I am wearing the Jackie Aina palette today. And just in case you're wondering, I have the shade Sponsored. I have that one on my lid. And then I have Pinker on the outer corner. And then I have everything smoked out with the shade Supreme. And then in my inner corner, I have a mix of Lituation. I wanted Lituation to be my inner corner, but it's a bit too dark. So I put Lituation on first, and then I topped it with Soleil. And then I did the same thing for my brow bone highlights. So let me know what y'all think about the look, because when I do these types of videos, I like to try and wear the products on my face for the most part. So next we have the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer. And again, if you've been watching my videos lately, you know that I really, really like this bronzer. This is the shade Endless Summer. And this is like the perfect bronzer shade for my skin tone, especially someone with my skin tone who prefers like more reddish tone bronzers as opposed to more yellow or golden tones. So I do have the bronzer on my face today. I have it on my cheeks, a little on my jawline, and just a little bit on my nose. I like really subtle bronzers. I don't like to do like really like snatched looks when I do makeup. I just like for things to look a bit more subtle on my face. I want like a little dimension in certain areas, but I don't necessarily, for instance, when I do my nose, I want it to have a little dimension, but I'm not trying to like, you know, really change the shape of my nose, make it look slimmer or anything like that. I just want a little bit bit of dimension in some areas. So I like a really soft bronzer, and again, I like it when bronzers run a bit more reddish as opposed to yellow or golden. So this is just like the perfect combination of all of that for me. It's really hard for me to find a bronzer that I like, and this one I'm so happy that it's drugstore because it only costs I think $14.99. Prior to me using this, I was using the Too Faced Sun Bunny bronzer a lot. That one is very unique because it's more of like a soft, like pinkish tone bronzer almost. It's super subtle on my face. It's even a bit more subtle than this. This one is a little bit better for me because it's just a tad darker, so you can see it just a little bit more on my face, but it's still really nice and subtle. In addition to that, they call this the butter bronzer because I mean it really does feel like butter. It just blends out so nicely on your skin. It just blends out like butter. So this is a really good product. If you could use me as a shade reference, I wear the shade Maple in Too Faced Born This Way. I wear a mix of 340 and 380 in Fenty, and I wear Mahogany in NYX Can't Stop Won't Stop. So I have a very cool pink undertone. So if you can use me as a shade reference and you've been looking for a bronzer, I would highly recommend this one. Next we have the LA Girl Island Hottie Blush Palette. This is the packaging here, and this is what this palette looks like. This comes in either 2 or 3 variations. So this comes in 2 different variations. So this is more so like the warm toned one, and then they have another one that runs a bit more, I guess, pinkish tone. So even though I do have like a pink undertone, like a cool undertone, when it comes to my blushes, I like for blushes to run very warm. I bought this palette specifically for these 2 shades over here. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do anything with these 2 shades, but I figured if I could use these 2, then that alone would be worth it. Unfortunately, this is a miss for me because these 2 shades, they barely show up. The peach, like orange corally shade, they don't really show up on your cheek. They look very golden, and they actually look more like highlighters on the cheek than they do blushes. These 2 shades over here, I very rarely pick them up and use them. I do it sometimes just so that I can like get some kind of use out of this palette because I paid money for it. But these 2, I can do like a very subtle, like everyday eyeshadow look. So sometimes I will put some sort of like brightening concealer or primer on my lid, and I'll put this very soft pink shade all over the lid, and then I will deepen it up a little bit with this shade here. It is very subtle, very faint. It just gives like a little pop of something on the eyes. But I mean, like I said, I'm just doing that just for the sake of being able to use this palette for something, because unfortunately these 2, which is what I really bought the palette for, they don't work out for me. But it looks really nice, but it just doesn't work out for me. So this one is definitely a miss for me. Okay, we're getting down to the home stretch. We have a couple more products to talk about. I'm going to talk about these next 2 products in conjunction. So these are 2 mascaras that we're going to discuss. First, we have the e.l.f. Plump It Up Mascara, and then we have the Butter London Power Up Mascara. This one I actually got from BoxyCharm, and when I first put it on, I noticed that it did a really good job of like lifting and curling the lash. The wand is not the most comfortable, I will say that. It's like the very spiky, like short spiky wand, so it's not like soft, but it does a really good job on your lashes. I'm going to zoom y'all in just a little bit so you can see what I'm talking about. And then this is the e.l.f. Actually, let me compare the 2 wands for you side by side. So this here, this is the e.l.f. wand, and then this is the Butter London one. The e.l.f. one is just a lot more comfortable. It's just very soft on the lashes, and then like I said, the Butter London one is a bit more sticky. So I'm going to zoom y'all in so y'all can see my lashes. For the sake of this video, I have the e.l.f. mascara on this eye, and I have the Butter London mascara on this eye. So let me know if y'all can see a difference. I think the e.l.f. mascara, which retails for $5, is almost a dupe for the Butter London mascara. which retails for $20. So for a higher end mascara, I think $20 is actually a pretty good price, but I mean, it's definitely a lot more than $5. And I go back and forth between these two mascaras. Usually I will use the e.l.f. one pretty much like, I'll use the e.l.f. one more often, more so for every day. And then I'll use the Butter London one more so for like special occasions. But you know, every once in a while I'll pick up the Butter London one just like to wear it to work or something like that. But I think that these two mascaras look very, very similar to one another. I do think the Butter London one looks just a little bit better. It looks a little bit more refined. I think it does a little bit better job at fanning out my lashes. The e.l.f. one is just a smidge more clumpy than the Butter London one. I also think the Butter London one is easier to apply. When I say easier to apply, I feel like I have to put the e.l.f. one on maybe like 2 or 3 more coats than the Butter London one to get them to look like this. But again, since the e.l.f. mascara only costs $5, to me that's, you know, not a big deal. On the bottom lashes, I think the Butter London one looks a little bit better, but again, the e.l.f. one is just like very, very close. So these are both hits in my book. And lastly, I have 2 lip products to share with you. The first one is the Wet n Wild Mega Slicks Lip Gloss in the shade Bronze Berry. I used this in a couple of recent videos that I did. This this lip gloss rather, it kind of reminds me of Fenty. Number one thing I don't like about this, even though I do consider this a hit, I don't like this very small applicator because I feel like I've just gotten spoiled with the really big one from Fenty. But that's the shade of it there. So to me, I hope y'all can see that. To me, this is like a very pigmented version of the Fenty Gloss Bomb. This one shows up on my lips a little bit better than the Fenty one. It's not quite as comfortable as the Fenty gloss, but it is still very comfortable. It's not sticky at all. And again, this one retails for $2.29. So for that price, I think this is really good. Neither one of those lip glosses, this one or the Fenty one, neither one of them is gonna like stay on your lips while you eat and drink and everything like that because it's a gloss, so it is gonna come off. I'm just talking about in terms of how it feels on your lips, how it applies. Like I said, the applicator on this one is quite small, but that's to me a small price to pay for the price of this only being a couple of dollars. If you really like the Fenty Gloss Bomb, but you want something that's just a tad bit more pigmented, try this for the color and also for the comfort. I think it's a really good deal. And again, it's only $2.29. Okay, last product. This is actually another BoxyCharm product. This is the Becca Ultimate Love Lipstick in the shade Souffle. So this is Souffle here. There's a little bit of a purple lipstick on the tip of it here because when I do these types of videos, I do try to wear what I'm talking about on my face. I really wanted to go for like a really, almost like a fall toned lip color today because I'm just really ready for fall. So I feel like a lot of my makeup going forward is going to be a bit more darker, just more fall tone. So I do have on a purple lipstick, but I did put some of this in the center of my lips. So I know you can't really tell what it looks like today, but this one is just a very, very nice everyday nude color for me. So let me see if I can show y'all. I hope y'all can see that with the lighting there. But this one is just a really, really nice everyday shade. It just pairs really nicely with my skin tone, but I think it's also a very universal shade. This is a very, very comfortable lipstick. It just glides on your lips. It's very smooth. It's very creamy. I just love it. I just think it's very, very comfortable on the lips, and I think it's a very flattering shade for me. So this is definitely a hit in my book. So those are all of the products that I had to talk about today. So like I said, that is it for me for summer makeup purchases. I'm not going to be buying any more makeup, fingers crossed, until holiday season. So let me know if you have any of these products or if you've been eyeing them or for some reason you're not interested in them. Just let me know your thoughts below. I really hope that y'all enjoyed the video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, and I hope to see y'all back for my next one. Until then, take care. Have a good one. Bye.